Good evening, everyone. I am Sharindria Robinson,
And I'm Marcus Robinson.
and I want to welcome you to another episode of Faith, Family, and Finance. We're so glad that you decided to join us again for another Sunday evening where we come to you live every Sunday evening, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, to talk about those things that we may not talk about very often. We talk about our faith some on Sundays, most of us do, and we're usually with family. But many of us do not sit around the kitchen table on Sundays and talk about finance. So we want to make sure that we do that in each and every week. So thank you for joining us as always.
Absolutely. We have a couple of special guests on the line tonight. We have a reoccurring guy, Mr. Javertis Burnett.
Yes. So tonight is all things the Black Wealth Summit. So tonight is Black Wealth Summit night. Y'all have been hearing us talk about the Black Wealth Summit. I'm so excited that Clear Vision Seminars and Consulting can bring such a wonderful conference. It's been localized to South Carolina and Thompson, Georgia, I think we did, and maybe even Augusta. But now it's going to Decatur, going to the A, going to Atlanta, Georgia. So we're excited to have Mr. Javertis Burnett on tonight. He's going to introduce some very special guests. But before we do that, I have to ask you to please share, hit the share button, share this with someone. We ask you to make sure you continue to like our video, and if you are tuning in, especially for the first time, type in your name. Let us see who you are and where you're watching from. We would definitely love to see that. I know many of you are used to going to this platform and seeing us on our personal pages. So as always, we're going to share this from our Robinson Coaches to our personal page. But if you want to engage and interact, we will only be able to see that engagement if you are logged on to the Robinson Coaches page. So again, thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching. I keep looking at the computer and I'm not looking at the camera. And you just sit here and let me look at the computer, Marcus.
I'm trying to do my part to share
Oh, come
and get
on.
people to
We had to do better. We had to do better. So thank you all again so
focus,
very
please
much.
focus.
So very much for tuning in. So I'm going to turn it over to Javertis Burnett right now. And Javertis, we have the Black Wealth Summit. Gosh, it's coming up this weekend. The first one is coming up this weekend. Tell us
Yes,
all
ma'am.
about it.
Yeah, we're really, really excited to be in Atlanta, Decatur, Georgia this weekend at the Green Forest Community Baptist Church. We are going to kick this thing off, and we cannot wait. The speakers are excited. The church is excited. Everybody's excited. And super excited to introduce two of our amazing special guests to you guys tonight as well.
Great. All right. So who do we have with us tonight?
Tonight, we have with us Reveal Wealth, which is started by Broderick Young and Al Johnson, and they are joining us tonight to talk about all things finance, all things saving, budgeting, investing, insurance, the whole nine. So I'm gonna give them a chance to introduce themselves. Broderick, Al, take a moment to introduce yourselves to the good people listening and watching at home.
Well, hello, listeners. My name is Al Johnson, one of the founding partners of Reveal Wealth. We are a financial planning and wealth management firm based in Columbia, Maryland. And I'm going to let my brother Broderick tell you a little bit more about himself. But my background is about 11 years on the corporate side of the financial services industry. And most recently, we decided to break the chains of corporate America and really focus on, some things that are important to us and very close to our heart in regards to what we're trying to do for ourselves in the community. So I'm sure we'll get a little bit more into that. But for right now, I'll introduce you to my brother Broderick Young.
And I am Broderick Young. I've been in the industry for 22 years, as Al said. The last 17 plus on the corporate side, kind of behind the scenes crafting solutions for individuals. And as my brother said, we decided that we wanted to get on the front line instead of behind the scenes to make sure that we're doing what we need to do for our people. I often like to say we don't discriminate against anybody, but we do concentrate on the people of that were burnt by the sun or blessed by the sun to make sure that they're taken care of.
Okay.
There's some new nuances associated with our existence in this financial landscape that we believe qualified professionals need to pay attention to, to provide quality services. I'm a CFP, chartered financial consultant, chartered advisor for senior living, certified life underwriter. Both of us are registered stockbrokers, registered principals, supervised stockbrokers, registered investment advisors. To sum it all up, we're a bunch of financial nerds, and we're here to help.
Wow. I love it. I love registered. Check.
Yeah.
I love
Your
it.
life is not boring.
Yeah, not at all.
So, and thank you. We thank you for taking time out of your schedule on this Sunday evening, to just come and to share with this audience and to give those people who may be watching online tonight. We have people who are watching us from South Carolina and people who are in Georgia who are watching. I don't know. I can't see if we have any of our Texas viewers on yet, but definitely those people who are within driving distance of Atlanta, Georgia. They are on this live right now. So, Javertus, what can we expect, and what is it that we want to share? What do we want to say to our listeners tonight to give them just a tip of the iceberg of what's going to happen this weekend?
This weekend is going to be power-packed weekend, full of transformational information. Like, there's so many conferences that you can go to and get an upsell, like, hey, we got some great stuff we want to tell you about. If you pay an extra $99, you get real stuff that you can apply tomorrow. Like, no.
I've been to a lot of those.
Right? Me too. I've been to a lot of those too. Like, you're going to get real, tangible, actionable steps that you can implement. We're going to be talking about everything from creating and building your own family banks, which is what Al and Broderick is going to be talking about. Our CPA is going to be unfolding and revealing all the secrets of the game, the tax game, and understanding that for entrepreneurs and landowners. We're going to be talking about estate planning, having a will in place, having trust in place, preserving your legacy, and preserving that wealth that you've built. We're going to be discussing, especially in Atlanta, since we're going to be inside of a faith-based building, we're going to also be discussing what's the Christian's responsibility when it comes to being financially responsible and all of those things. So we're going to be talking about real estate investing. You're going to walk away. These are not just things that we're going to talk about and say, hey, Sharentia, it's really cool if you invest. It's really cool if you have insurance and have a will. It's cool if you get into some real estate. Like, no, you're going to walk away with actionable items that you can implement the day after to begin to transform your life and transform the lives of your families for many, many generations to come. And if you're in driving distance or flying distance of Atlanta, Georgia, you need to be there.
All right. I love it. Cool. I love it. So let's dive into this more. I was so excited when I said I wasn't going to use that word tonight, Javertus, because I feel like you use it enough for both of us. So I was really trying to not use that word. I made a conscious effort. I tried, but I failed. But I want to hear more about Reveal Well. Reveal Well. I mean, the name itself even is so intriguing to me. So I would love it, Al and Broderick, if you guys could talk to us a little bit about that. And it's a part in this. Your phrase here, building your own family bank. We are a couple who have a couple of businesses, family businesses. So it's always intriguing to me when I see this phrase, build your own family bank. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? How did you even come up with that concept, with that phrase, with that slogan, that mantra?
Well, so I think what we'll do, and this is Al, by the way, I'll give you a little bit of background on Reveal, and I'll allow Broderick to tell you a little bit more about the infinite banking or the family banking concept. But to begin with, when we came up with the name Reveal, we identified that really what we wanted to do was reveal the strategies and financial tools that, quite frankly, others have used throughout history to protect, accumulate, and build wealth, right? On a long-term and a legacy building, from a long-term and a legacy building standpoint. And, the second thing that we really wanted to do was bring, qualified professionals, as we said before, as well as qualified solutions, to the marketplace. Like Javertis, said before, we are, ambushed, I would say, with a lot of different things from a lot of different people. But what we find a lot of times is that we are not receiving quality information, or at the very least, the best information that's available to us. So really, that's what we wanted to make sure that we do. And we also wanted to make sure that it's brought to us in a holistic manner. So one of the things that we, really love and try to cater to is planning from an overall standpoint, not piecemealing things for clients, but making sure they're taken care of in all of the different aspects, and that we are, bringing those things up front and center, so we can look at them, so we can see them, so we can monitor them, and making sure that our clients understand that one size doesn't fit all, and everything's different. And, there are a lot of different aspects in the financial plan that people need to take advantage of. So one of the things that I really love about the Wealth Summit is that we're going to be hitting, all cylinders. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about investments. We're going to talk about insurance. We're going to talk about trust, estates, all of those different things that one needs in their overall financial portfolio. And we're going to bring it forefront. So, Brad will tell you a little bit more about the financial, the banking concept system, but that's kind of what Reveal Wealth is all about.
And when it comes to building your own bank, it really goes back to, like Al said, it's been done and been being done for generations. I believe the individuals that did it the best will all recognize that name, the Rockefellers.
Right.
The Rockefellers have a system in place that, it doesn't matter. They can't mess it up. The kids can't mess it up. The grandkids can't mess it up. The great-grandkids can't mess it up. It just can't be messed up because of what they put in place, a century or so ago. And one of the reasons that we all know their names, but many of us can't name our great-great-grandparents' name, is because they leave money. I mean, bottom line,
Exactly.
if you were still getting the check from your great-great-great-grandfather or great-great-great-grandmother, you know that name. I don't care how large that check is, you would know that name.
Absolutely.
So what we want to help our people understand, and I'll back it up, you talk about faith. If you ask our people, there's nothing possible without the Lord. All things are possible for those who believe in Christ. And we'll agree on that. And if you ask somebody, what's the greatest of great, they'll tell you the Lord. And if you ask us, whose image are you created in, they'll tell you, we'll say God.
Right.
And then you ask us, what's your greatest asset? And I'll ask this at the Wealth Summit, and those of you that show up don't give the answer away. But I've asked this 1,000 times probably in front of hundreds of thousands of people. And when you ask what's your greatest asset, usually if one of us can answer, they'll say their home. Now, mind you, we just went through whose image are you created in?
God.
What is the greatest of all great? And we don't get, because we've never been told that we are our greatest asset.
Absolutely.
Nothing happens without us. Nothing happens without your health, and you darn sure can't have wealth without your health. So
Amen.
Once we begin to understand that we are our greatest asset, then we have to look at what are we doing to protect that asset. What are we doing to put a foundation up under it to ensure that asset will be able to generate and create the wealth that it's supposed to create, that God said he has for us to have, for not just this generation, but generations to come. And then what practices are we putting in place to centralize it, to make sure that it stays in one core place with the values that we have for our families around that? That's where the estate planning comes in, to make sure. I have 2 nieces. I don't have children, but my nieces and my nephews, those are mine. And I always joke with my nieces that I don't know who they're going to marry, but I already know I probably won't like them, right? It's going to take some time, okay? And I'm really definitely not going to like them enough to want to give them the money that I intend on setting there as a foundation for my nieces.
Right.
So I have to put things in place to protect that. I want them to benefit, and if that spouse is a wonderful spouse, I want that spouse to benefit. But if things go awry, I don't want them to get half. So how do we control that? How do we centralize that? And we're going to talk about that, because one of the things that I believe our people haven't heard enough is our value. We are worth something. When we look in the news, when we look in media, we're not told we're worth anything. But one of the biggest things we want our people to understand is we're worth something. And because you're worth something, we need to behave accordingly and plan accordingly and go from there. So creating that bank starts with understanding your worth and then utilizing the tools to leverage that worth. And it doesn't have to be something that you can utilize when you die. It's also there for while you're living to help you take advantage of maybe of real estate opportunities or other things that are out there for your family. But it's that foundation which other things can be built upon. And we'll go in a little detail about that next weekend. But we believe it's something everyone should know. Everybody might not have the $100 million bank like the Rockefellers, but why doesn't your family have $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000? I'm willing to argue the only thing that's standing in the way of that happening for your family is you not really understanding and believing that you're worth it.
So let me stop you here. So let me ask this question: How do we start the conversation? You about to say something again?
No.
How do we start the conversation? Because it's not a popular topic in our communities. How do you guys start that conversation? Because right now, when I talk to people, the conversation is not taking place. So, the whole thought behind not only building wealth, but building a legacy, protecting a legacy, and developing a whole base for creating a bank, I just don't hear us talking about that. So how would you approach that from a family standpoint?
Well, Marcus, I think even before we get there, man, it's important to understand, the importance of working with a professional. Because I think one of our biggest value, or one of the biggest value adds that we bring to someone is initiating that conversation, right? Because a lot of times, we're not trying to have these conversations. So as advisors, the thing that we do with our clients is we start out from the get-go with sending them a questionnaire and really trying to understand what is important to them, and as Broderick mentioned before, what is important to them within their value system, right? And that value system is based on a lot of other aspects in terms of their advisors, in terms of their goals, their dreams, their passions. Well, what are these things, and how do they affect you, and how do they look? So to answer your question, we start the conversation by sitting down with someone and asking a boatload of questions, and really trying to get an idea of what's important to them, and then kind of move forward to them from there. So a lot of times it's not a conversation where we're going to sit down with someone and say, hey, let me tell you about this banking system that we can create, right? It's not a product that we're trying to push. It's more so of a conversation. Let's figure out what's important to you and allow us to show you how we can not only, make sure that those things are in place, but enhance the things that you may or may not already be doing. So I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully it does.
And I think it's also important that you have resources like you all, Javertis, ourselves, in the marketplace. What I mean by that is that our people are often inundated with individuals who don't believe they're worth anything.
Wow.
And they may not overtly say it, but I've been in situations where I've been working with individuals, and I've had to interject and say, hey, look, why isn't that number larger for this person? And behind closed doors, it's, well, we didn't think that they could afford it. And it's, well, did you ask? And what made you think that? So you have to have people that can be objective with our people and frame a conversation where our people can receive it. We're more so uninformed. We're not dumb. And if we don't have advisors that understand that there are just some things that have happened throughout centuries where we weren't privy to the conversation. It doesn't mean that we're stupid. We just weren't privy to the conversation.
Right.
So we have to have advisors that are working with people who, one, have been in on those conversations and then can bring those to our people where they can receive it and grow from it. So I think that's kind of where the conversation starts, Marcus, is having just a true core belief and passion for wanting that conversation to happen, and then being bold enough to have it. Because sometimes it can be a little uncomfortable, when you're talking about those things. But, if I can't sit across the table and look at, a young individual who has I don't mind you having a $5,000 purse, but I got a problem if you don't have $5,000 in it.
Amen. I can say that.
That's a big deal.
And I remember, for our viewers who watch us consistently, you've heard me tell the story before when we generally always start this podcast off by telling people that we're not certified financial planners or financial advisors. And we said we want to get the conversation started, and we always talk about making sure that you have a team. And so we're very transparent and let people know that we do have certified financial planners, advisors, people who are registered, the attorneys, how they should have attorneys in their database, and they should have their bankers, and we list all these people that you have to have connected to you, and you have to begin to have this conversation. And I tell the story of being actually in our church. We were in our church, and we were two of the youngest people who were in a particular meeting one day, and they had a certified financial planner to come in and work for one of the top companies. I won't call their name because they were not paying us to endorse them, but he came in, and I remember being an eager 23 maybe year old, almost fresh out of graduate school with plenty of student loan debt, but he was talking about investing, and he said I need to invest, and they did these numbers, and they told me if I invest a certain amount of money every year that I could be a millionaire before I was like 55, 65. So I thought, great. So I went to his office, and I was ready to go. I brought all my financials, everything he told me that I needed to bring. He was a man of faith. He could have been my uncle. He could have been in my family. And he sat me down and very candidly just began to tell me some things. And one of the main things he said was I need to get rid of some of the debt first. And he did. And as aggressive as I thought that I wanted to be able to invest, he would not allow me. He said, this is not the best move for you. Now, he could have just taken my money.
Amen. Yep.
But he didn't, and I knew that he cared. Well, fast forward, 10, 15 years maybe later, we're still working with his firm. He's at the top of that firm now, whereas before he came in as an agent, right. And now he's the managing partner of that firm. And we still have that relationship, though. And now I can invest what I thought I could invest then. But
conversation is much different
it's
now.
It's very different now. But I listened when I was 23. And I think that's part of why we're doing this now, because we want to be able to reach out to those who are 20 and younger and tell them, you may not be able to invest $1,000 a month now, but if you have the conversation with the right people, and that's why we can appreciate Broderick, what you and Al bring to the table, because it's about having the right conversation with the right people at the right time. And if you have that right conversation, then they'll tell you, we can do something. We can do something. And it's very good to have somebody who's transparent enough to tell us what we're able to do and not just interested in getting us to sign on the dotted line. So I appreciate what you all are doing.
Exactly.
Yes, definitely. Now, people are asking, some people who are on here from South Carolina who are not going to the summit in Atlanta, but they've registered for South Carolina. And I'm not sure of this. Are you all going to be in Spartanburg as well, or are you just in Atlanta?
Yes. Okay. I'm Broderick will be in Atlanta. Al is going to be in Spartanburg. We will have representation at both events, and wherever the Wealth Summit goes, if we're invited, we're going to make sure there's representation there.
Yes, I love it. Okay, I love it. And I have someone on here who is saying kind of the same thing I just echoed. Miss Adrian is saying some of the same things, like if she had known this or actually had believed this 30 or 40 years ago, just how different things would be now in her life. But Miss Adrian, you are on the right track. So I love the stuff that you're doing. So we're very excited about that. We're going to, in Spartanburg, we're definitely going to be in not in Spartanburg, in Atlanta. We'll be in a faith-based setting. So we're going to be in a church. And one of the scriptures that I love and I hold to is a scripture that says, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. And when you made that phrase, that comment earlier, I think it was Broderick, your health is your wealth. I mean, it is your wealth. Like without that, it's nothing. And we do have to make sure that we take care of ourselves. But why is it, and if you can speak to this also, like people of faith, we often don't make that strong association, or we think that if we are a person of faith, then we're not intended to be wealthy. Like, we shouldn't be talking about building wealth. Almost like if we live in poverty, then that makes us closer to the master, and I definitely don't subscribe to that. But can either one of you all speak on that, since we are going to a faith-based facility on Friday?
Well, I'll be more than happy to speak on that, because that's something I'm extremely passionate about.
Okay.
Me and you both, bro. Me and you both.
I say it's because far too long we have just accepted the verbiage and the beliefs. We're oratorical people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my grandmama said it, my mama said it, my daddy said it, and that's the way it is, right?
Right.
But if you read the book, you read that scripture, that's not what it says.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't we have the thought process? Why don't we actually subscribe to a thought process that God wants us to be poor?
Right.
It never, the book never said that.
Never said that.
Why can't we get our heads around that? The wealthier we are, that allows us to do more in the name of the God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can help more people, you can save more people, you can bless more people if you have more wealth. So I really just believe it's something that we have to go back to the Word and look at the promises that are made there. Mm-hmm. He tells us he wants us to be prosperous. If we're created in his image and God is our Father and we know that God loves us, why do we correlate that to being poor? So the book never said money was evil. It says the love of money, not money in and of itself. Right. But it also tells you can't serve God and mammon at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're serving the Lord wholeheartedly, and I think being financially responsible is a biblical tenet. I probably can't quote the scripture as well as you, Pastor, but, you know, I'm pretty good. I'll be in that range. I'll be in that range.
Yeah.
You know, but it talks about, you know, if you're gonna build a storehouse, you probably want to make sure that you have your stuff in order, right?
Yes.
So it talks about budgeting. It talks about building a parapet around your roof if you're gonna go ahead and have a party and invite people over, because back then they used to entertain on the roof. And if somebody fell off your roof, you were responsible to their family. So that parapet, that's risk management. That's making sure that I'm managing the risk of these people who I'm responsible for on my roof. Timothy talks about, Proverbs, a good father leaves his children's children in inheritance. That doesn't sound like you got to be poor to do that. That means you got some obligations. So, you know, it's littered throughout the Bible. I actually wrote a book called Faith-Filled Finances that correlates biblical scripture to financial planning. That's why I'm pretty well versed in what it says. And I wanted to know. I grew up in the South with those parents that, you know, church wasn't a Sunday thing. It was a day thing. Any day that ended in Y, you had something to do at church.
Right.
And there was a period of time in my life where I used to look at my mom and be like, you know, for the first 18 years, I went to church every day. I think I can get a break, man. You know, I take a couple Sundays off, Mama. Give me something. But the Bible is littered with conversations about money. Jesus didn't stray away from it. The Word didn't stray away from it. We shouldn't stray away from it. But I ask this. Everybody knows that tithing financially is a tenth. And again, it goes back to, if you created in God's image and it's good enough for him, well, why aren't you giving at least 10% to you? Exactly. If you truly believe you created in his image. The other thing I would ask is if you're really tithing, you know it's broken down into three spaces. Not just your money, it's your time and your talent also. So how much time are you really spending cultivating your talent? Because if you were spending more time cultivating whatever that talent is that God gave you, I'm willing to argue your finances will get better too. But if you're spending most of your time watching The Housewives, you're not in line with what it is that God has for you to be doing.
Look, I'm so glad I'm not the only one who will say that now.
Yes, yeah, I always do markets like that. Like,
I get to enjoy this tonight. Because they make it sound like I'm the hard one. No,
You
no, no,
are.
no, no, no,
You
no, no.
are.
I
It's
appreciate
okay.
this.
And just for the record, I don't watch The Housewives, but yeah, we had to put that out there. No, this is so true, and I love that you know the things that you're sharing, and you're getting some amens on the live. I don't know if you're able to watch it and see what they're saying, but I like this comment that Angela wrote. Can you read that, honey? I can't see very well.
Oh, she was saying she was wanting to say that the Bible tells us to learn from the ant.
Oh yeah, how the ant definitely stores away. That's
stores and works.
That's a good point. That's a good point, Angela. Thank you for sharing that.
What's interesting to me though is money follows value. You know, and when I talk to people, I've been speaking at conferences like this for a little while now, and one of the things I recognize is that we have low expectations in our community, and our value system has some challenges. How do you guys deal with changing a value system? I know that's a loaded question that takes some time, but that's where we are. You know, we have an issue with our value system.
As Al said, one of the things that we do is the first engagement we typically have with a person is our questionnaire, and it does ask about values. You know, what do you care about? What's important to you? Who's important to you? So on and so forth. And, you know, you kind of lobbed it over the plate. I'll go ahead and hit it a little bit further into the field, but a lot of us are more concerned with looking like we have money than actually having money.
Yeah.
And I think because Al and I definitely been blessed with education, blessed with experience, but man, we haven't forgotten where we originally came from. I tell people all the time that, you know, existing in this country as a black person, most of us aren't more than 2 generations from a farm, the country, or the projects. There may be some of us who are further out, but the majority of us can go back to those 2 places. But if we look at what I always say, look at what your grandparents did typically. They were financial stalwarts. They had it together with a lot less resources and things than we had. So sometimes we have to have that tough conversation, Marcus. What is important? Is it important for 65-year-old you to still be able to maintain the same lifestyle as 35-year-old you, or are you just going to burn it to the wind right now?
Yeah. That's a major deal. And something that we grapple with now. I mean, we have 3 sons, and the reality is, my mindset at this point is, what does their start look like, and how responsible am I for it? You know what I'm saying?
But one of the things I share with parents, especially our parents, is, and we can teach you how to walk through this if this is foreign to you. My nieces and nephews know before they ask me to buy anything, an iPad or whatever, they tell me the company that makes it, and they tell me the ticker symbol, how much it costs to purchase it on the stock market. And then we have a discussion of, is it better to own their product or is it better to own the company? What's going to help you out longer? Is it possible for us to do a little bit of both? How would we go about buying this? What will it cost you? Because, you know, if you got enough Apple equipment, you can have some Apple shares. An iPhone costs $1,000. I think Apple closed at 2 and some change the other day. So you can buy 4 shares of Apple for the cost of 1 iPhone. But we'll have multiple iPhones and won't own Apple. So we got to change the conversation with our kids early.
I love it. Go get them.
I just bought an iPhone, by the way.
Well, yeah, you did. You
Literally,
did just
like
buy.
Thursday.
You did just buy.
And I don't have shares of Apple right now, but I'm pretty sure y'all can help me with that. Yeah, we're pretty transparent on these lives, so it is what it is. I'm a real estate guy,
but
so
that's the conversation, Marcus. Because again, who told us we could own Apple?
You're right.
Nobody ever told us we could do that.
You're right.
And people, I remember the last Wealth Summit not summit, it was one of these lives. We did them at our church, and Jim Vertus was there. And there were several young people there, and I was impressed who were, and some of them are on like to now, who were asking about purchasing the stock. You know,
You
they
said,
were
what,
they
three
were
stocks?
I don't they
Yeah.
mentioned several different ones.
Mhm.
But I you know, applauded them just for having the conversation, you know, being able to have the conversation. And now we're like, okay, the next step is an action step. Like, we can talk about it, and now let's do something. Because you're right, if I can purchase this purse, if I can get this pair of shoes,
Yeah.
I can definitely buy some stock. You know, if $1,300,
Yeah.
$1,300 for the purse.
Yeah.
You know, 5,000, like you said, 5,000 for shoes. I hadn't gotten that point, but yeah. But you know, I know some people who are. But what else do they own?
Well, and think about the fact that this is tax season. People are starting to get refund checks back and all that type of stuff. You know, I tell people, you know, on the real estate side, I'm like, if you're getting $6,000 to $10,000 back in a refund check, you can buy a house for that, a rental house for that.
In South Carolina,
In
you
South
really
Carolina.
can.
Well,
In Columbia. Yeah,
in,
in South
in
Carolina.
a lot of places in the South, you know,
You're right.
Midwest. But I can imagine you can also buy some stock
Of
with
course.
$6,000 to
I'm sure you can.
$10,000 as well. You
He
know.
just Broderick just gave us an example of that.
Yeah.
And so people are chiming in. They're loving all of this. It seems like we got some people for Spartanburg. Some are going to Atlanta. Thanks for tuning in. Mr. Price Javertas, give us the Spartanburg and the Atlanta dates and the registration information. I think you're still tuned in with us.
Yes, ma'am. So Atlanta is March 13th and 14th at the Green Forest Community Baptist Church in Decatur, Georgia. You can find registration information on the website on theblackwellsummit.net. And also Spartanburg is April 3rd and 4th at the Spartanburg Community College downtown campus. And that information can be found as well at theblackwellsummit.net. And you can register online for both of those.
All right. Everybody got it? That is great. And so we want to make sure that we get that registration out tonight. Everyone, if you haven't registered for either one of these summits yet, you definitely don't want to miss it. If you're in driving distance, you know, this is just a foretaste of what the entire weekend will be like. I'm telling you, when you go on the website, theblackwellsummit.net, you're going to see an example of the agenda that's laid out for you. And it is a full Saturday. You're going to get your money's worth. And the thing is, they're not even breaking the bank. Like, you're not even breaking the bank. It costs less. Okay, here we go.
Uh-oh.
Less than a pair of shoes.
Uh-oh.
The registration fee is less than a pair of shoes.
But God knows this information is worth more.
Why? I mean, it is less than a pair of shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So you definitely want to make sure that you go ahead and that you register for this event. Roderick, you go ahead, Javerta. Sorry.
Before, I just want to say this quickly. The registration. I mean, you're talking about the cost of the registration. The registration itself, you're gonna have heavy hors d'oeuvres and everything on Friday night. You're gonna have breakfast and lunch on Saturday. The registration fee cost for this thing don't even pay for the food. So the workshop itself is practically free. So please come out, share, bring a friend. You definitely will not be disappointed.
And this is what I want to pose this question, and this is for anybody. I want to pose this question because I was thinking about this an hour or so before starting this live broadcast, and this is when I was saying I wasn't going to use the word excited, and I was going to come on the broadcast and talk about how upset I was. Yeah,
Okay.
because why don't people take advantage of opportunities such as this?
Uh-oh.
And so that was just bugging me because what will happen, and maybe you guys don't experience this in Maryland, but what I see a lot of, and I know we have a lot of, is that, and some of the people online, y'all can attest to this too, you will put out a quality event with so much information where you will just pour out your whole blueprint to anyone who wants to listen. And people won't pay $50 to register. But then they will inbox, call you, want to know when they can pick your brain and will not pay $39.95 to invest in themselves at a conference where they're going to get a wealth of information. So I really was frustrated, not excited, but frustrated because if one more person wants to pick my brain about something, and I'm like, I'm here giving you all this information, but you're not taking advantage of. What is it with us in education? And someone said it earlier. Us not investing in ourselves. Why won't we invest in ourselves?
I'm just gonna sit here and just.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So Al, Roderick,
The three of y'all, any one of y'all can take this.
Javertis was his Marcus just gonna
I just get
here.
to sit here tonight. Appreciate y'all. So serious.
I think, but I mean, I think that issue is a systemic one.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that we don't really totally grasp how to apply sometimes the knowledge that we receive. And we're a little intimidated at times to admit what we don't know. There's a post, Al, I was telling Marcus earlier, he's much more technologically advanced than I am. It's found like some of the chats, and there's a gentleman that posted, that our black churches don't teach prosperity. And I'm interpreting that as being a little bit sarcastic, because we all know that prosperity gospel is there. But what I think to land, but my thought process and what I was trying to communicate is, it's one thing to tell a person that they're supposed to be prosperous. It's another thing to show them the blueprint on how to do it, to help them create a plan for them to get from point A to point B. So, it's one thing to leave church knowing you're supposed to be in that land of milk and honey. It's another thing to sit down and look at your cash flow and your budgeting and your spending plan and developing a way for you to get out of that debt and working through so you can get to that other side. So I think a lot of times, Javertis said it earlier, what we're doing is a little different. And a lot of times, some of those same people, Tracy, who may not want to show up, they have shown up for the $99.99, and this is going to get you. A lot of times, we want to get rich quick. I mean,
Right.
I'm from Liberty City, Miami, Florida. We used to call it hitting a lick, right? A lot of times, we want that lick. I want to invest $99.99 and be a millionaire by April 3rd. In reality, it really just does not work that way.
Right.
The only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. That's it.
Yep.
And if we're not willing to sit back and do the work, then we're not going to grow. Another thing I always say is it's not called growing joy, it's called growing pain. So if you're not doing something that's a little painful every day, you're not growing. And when it comes to your finances, if you're not doing something that may be a little painful to you with your finances, you're probably not growing those finances. So you need a coach. It's just like trying to get in shape. Yeah, you can do it on your own, but you're going to do better if you got the right coach. And I understand your thought process. Sometimes you got to pay for the coach. And at the price point that's been created, it wasn't created to exclude anybody. Like you said, I mean, $39.99 is not out there to exclude anyone. But it definitely is a tangible display of you wanting to invest in yourself. And I believe it's getting better. I want to believe that. I want to believe that there are more people who are looking for good quality information. And I think it's part of our ministry to continue to be vigilant of making sure that that's there for them.
I love it. Great. That's
Absolutely.
great.
One of the things I generally, a phrase I use a lot of times is, how are we handling what God has handed us? And, when you ask the question, it at least gets it will at least get your attention. As it relates to finances, as it relates to your health, as it relates to wealth, family, whatever, right? Faith. I think that we have to continue to ask that question, because in answering that question, how are we handling what God has handed us? We're going to find out what we believe. We're going to find out why we believe it, and we're going to find out what our priorities are. And so at the Black Wealth Summit, I think this is a prime example of us trying to change the narrative, trying to not only change minds and hearts, but change direction. Because right now, looking at the statistics, our community doesn't look that great right now.
Right.
And so,
Right.
if we're looking at changing the minds and the hearts and the direction of people that look like you and I think the Black Wealth Summit is a great place to start.
That's a great
I
segue,
think,
Mark. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, I just want to say I think so too, totally, Marcus. I will say this though. I think another a different perspective of that, and one thing that I have to remind myself of all the time is that we have to, as people who are, for me, this is not just a vocation. This is an avocation. I feel this is what God has called me to. Um, I feel like this is what God has placed me on this earth for, and as such, I have to remind myself that I have to have grace. I have to be gracious to myself, to us as a community. We have to extend grace because a lot of our fears and our concerns around how we view money comes from the trauma that we've suffered as people in regards to money. Now, that's a whole nother conversation, and I don't want to kind of get us down that rabbit hole in this moment. But I say that to say we have, where you are today, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, where you are today financially, it is what it is. That's where you are. Somewhere along the line, we've came up with this concept, this whole fake it till you make it idea, and where nobody's able to be vulnerable, nobody's able to be honest. We can't all be multimillionaires. We can't all be making six figures. The statistic says less than 10% of us are doing so. So we have to.
Any of us, of any race, color, creed, nationality.
Any race. So we're not all balling out of control, and we have to get to the point to where it's okay to own where we are and embrace our trauma and vulnerabilities to say, hey, I'm going to look at where I am today, and I'm going to start today. And I think those of us who have access to the information and who are walking down that path, being intentional to always extend grace. And so that's why every time I get frustrated with an event, or I get frustrated saying, I'm not doing the Web Tour no more, I'm not doing the Black Web Summit, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'm always no, JB, let's meet folks where they are. And so I just wanted to throw that out there as we try to transition as well.
And I like that you mentioned it because Adrian said something similar to that. If you go back and read the comments from earlier, and I don't know if you caught a glimpse of that, but she did say something similar to what you're saying now, speaking to the trauma and also speaking to, words that were handed to us when we weren't even able to read and write. So listening to somebody else's interpretation of the word and how we should apply it, it's something that we have to think about as well. That's part of our history. Guys, we have about 9 minutes left on this broadcast. So what I would like for us to do is a couple of things. There are several people on here we already know. They're already locked in. They'll be at the Wealth Summit in either Spartanburg or in Atlanta. But there are a few people who may be watching the replay who are not going to be able to make it to the Wealth Summit, but they're intrigued by what we've been talking about tonight. They're intrigued by Reveal Wealth, and they want to hear more about you guys. So Broderick and Al, can you both start us off with telling us how people can reach out to you? You also mentioned a book that you have, where they can find that information. And then Javertis, if you could close out with giving us a closing points about the Black Wealth Summit, and again, where people can go to register for that.
Sure. We can be reached at, you can give us a call, 410-928-8081. Our direct extensions are extension 700 and extension 701. That will get either me or Al directly. You can email us. I am B as in boy, YOUNG, B Young. What everybody wants to do when they grow up, be young at WeRevealWealth.com. And Al is A Johnson at WeRevealWealth.com. You can shoot us an email. You can, we're also follow us on Instagram at Reveal Wealth. You can send what's that thing called? A DM. It's a DM. You can send one of those things.
Come on through, Roger.
Hey, man, I told you, call me, man. Call me. or you can definitely see us at one of the wealth summits, both on Instagram, both on LinkedIn, and we'll give you all websites being worked on. We had to make some updates, adding a couple more advisors to the team. So as soon as that's back live, we'll make sure you all have that and you can post it. And I mean, preferably we'll be on again. I mean, I don't want, if it's okay with you all, we won't be strangers to this.
That sounds great.
Absolutely.
You will not. You will not. So I've already found you on Instagram. So this is great. And we've typed the number in on the page. So most of the followers, most of the people here, I think you do have an IG because I follow some of you and you follow us. So we're following you now on Instagram and can send a direct message. Anything else you want to share? Your books, your products, or anything that you have?
The book can be found on Amazon. It's called Faith-Filled Finances. You can order it on Amazon. It will get to you. And we're working on a project called Wealth Revealed. We're hoping to have that out sometime by the middle of the year. And we plan on working with JB to make sure that we're doing more summits in different places so we can get the information out to our people. I'll close with this. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is making sure that we know our worth. I believe that if law enforcement knew that every time they murdered one of our people, that over $1 million would come back into our community to help influence policy, to help change systematic issues that plague us, they probably stop shooting. Mm-hmm. But if nobody is there to inform us that we're worth that million, how are we going to change it? So as JB said, this is a mission. This is a ministry. This is a calling. And we're here to help our people understand their worth and maximize the resources that are now available to them so that they're fully participating in this American experience and their families can benefit from all that's here for them to benefit from.
All right. Sounds great. Sounds great. Gerardo, do you want to close? Go ahead, Al.
I'll sign off with you all as well. And number one, I will hopefully see everyone at the Wealth Summit in Spartanburg. But I hope one of the messages that has been relayed and that we will continue to relay as we change the conversation moving forward, especially in this political climate that we're engaged in, is that economic power is the new black power.
Absolutely.
And like Broderick said, once we start to realize that, and once we start to change the conversation around economics and really closing that wealth gap, I believe that is the one thing that will, kill a lot of the evils that are out there. So it's been a pleasure being on this radio or this Facebook Live with you all, and look forward to further powerful things in the future.
Sounds great. I love it. I love it. The Black Wealth Summit. Al, you got me stirred all up again. I wanna go down this road and talk to Martin Luther King, but I'm not gonna do it. But really, as long as he talked about race, he was alive. It was when he started talking about economics. The real issue has always been and will always be about the economics. But anyway, I digress. Gerardus, close us out. The Black Wealth Summit.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I'm going to go there, Sharinda, and that's how I will close us out. Not only Dr. King, but every great, this entire movement, what we know as the civil rights movement, started as an economic movement. And the pressures of economic upward mobility and progress is what led to and fueled the civil rights movement, because there could not be equitable economic movement without the civil rights. Ida B. Wells said it best in Memphis when she spoke about the injustices of lynching and the evils of lynching. And she said this, and I want to say this to all of us that are listening. She stressed to the people there that the lynchings that were going on in Memphis at that time were not an admission of black evil, but rather they were a response to black economic growth and development. The lynchings weren't a symbol that the black folks were evil and that they were horrible in some ways. The lynchings were a response to the fact that these people now pose an economic threat to us, and we must silence them and place fear inside of them. And although we're not being lynched in trees, we're still being lynched in corporate America. We're still being lynched in our banking system, in our housing system. We're still being lynched as far as the information and opportunities and things that we have access to. And that is what I believe the Black Wealth Summit has been formed, organized, and structured to put an end to the economic lynching of our people. And we're liberating folks by giving them the tools, rules, and strategies that they need to stand up against that and to take their power back. And to Al's point, we can protest, we can do all of these things, but economic freedom and economic liberty is what's going to cause us to see massive change in our communities. And to Broderick's point, if they knew every time they gunned one of us down or choked us to death or anything in the middle of the street that our families were inheriting millions of bucks, millions of dollars, they would be slower to pull the trigger. And so we want everybody under the sound of my voice to be at the Black Wealth Summit, Atlanta, Spartanburg, fly, boat, plane, whatever you need to do, drive, carpool, get to the Black Wealth Summit, theblackwealthsummit.net, theblackwealthsummit.net. And we look forward to making sure that we give everybody the tools that they need to be able to build wealth and leave a legacy. So that's all I have, and we're excited about seeing you guys in Atlanta this weekend.
All right. Thank you, Facebook family, for joining us. Thank you to our very special guest on this evening. We ask you to continue to like and share this post. If you're watching replay, type replay in the comment bar. And be sure to also just type the name of someone in the comment box who you think need to watch this broadcast.
Because you know somebody.
You know someone who needs to watch it. We can't wait. Come back next Sunday, because next Sunday we'll be able to tell you all about, and you'll be able to share with us all about the wonderful things that happen on Friday and Saturday. Absolutely. See you in Atlanta. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.